Welcome to Jewish Wisdom on JTV, the global Jewish channel. Well, today we're joined by Rabbi Mordechai Becher. We're doing a live interview, our very first live international interview on Jewish Wisdom with Rabbi Becher, who is a highly sought after speaker. He's an author of many books. He's written on every single Jewish subject imaginable, most notably Gateway to Judaism, and he is a teacher at Yeshiva University in New York. Rabbi, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you doing?
Pleasure. Good to be here.
Thank you so much for being here. So you've written, as I said, on loads of different subjects, but I want to pick you up on one in particular, which is the issue of happiness. Happiness is something which everyone's seeking in this world. Every single person is after happiness. But despite the fact that we live in the modern age of, physical abundance, this is still an issue. In fact, in some ways, it's more of an issue today. More people are feeling depressed. They're feeling dissatisfied with their lifestyle, with their lives. What have you argued are the keys to leading a happy life?
Well, I would say that the first thing I would have to say is, before we even get to the keys to a happy life, is that to dispel the myth that a happy life is not within our capability. Because there are people who believe that it's always dependent upon external circumstances, completely dependent upon that, on my genetics, on my health, security, financial situation, etc. And I do not downplay those factors. They are all important factors. And obviously a person who's poverty-stricken, a person who's in great danger, a person who is unhealthy is going to have a hard time being happy. However, there's a good percentage of our happiness which is not dependent upon external circumstances, but dependent upon our attitudes and our actions. And that, I think, is an extremely important point to present, that it is actually within our power to achieve a certain amount of happiness. So two people could be in the same physical circumstances. One could be happy and one could be not. And that depends on attitude.
Right. It's just... often when you're dealing with a problem or there's something's really bothering you, I do appreciate that attitude can affect it, but often when someone turns around to you and says, oh, come on, lighten up, or just be grateful for what you do have, and there's something's really bothering you, you just want to slap them in the face. Like, that's just not all you want to be hearing. So I'm not sure if I fully buy this idea that happiness is, it's mainly internal, it's not kind of down to external events. What do you make of what I just said?
Well, I would agree that I certainly would want to slap someone who said that to me in those circumstances. But despite that, they may be correct. So for a few reasons. First, there's been a fair amount of research done by Martin Seligman at University of Pennsylvania, Tal Ben Shachar, who was at Harvard University, is currently back in Israel, right, and Sonia Lyubomirsky at University of California. And they've been doing research in what's called positive psychology. And what they have found is, and I'm not going to go through the boring statistics, etc., but what they've found is that it is actually, a lot of our happiness is indeed under our control. Sonia Lyubomirsky estimates 40% is under our control. I'm not sure I don't remember exactly how she gets to that, but it is something which we can do actions and tangible.
Right. So what would you say, what would be your top two tips, top kind of two mindsets or actions you'd tell people to do or have if they're not feeling happy and they want to experience greater happiness?
I think I would have a few top tips. If you want to limit it to two, I think I would have to say that number one is expressing appreciation on a regular basis, either to other people in whose contact, in your context. It may be your spouse, parent, child, employer, employee, but expressing appreciation, and it could be to someone who you don't know at all. The taxi driver, thank you, that was excellent driving. I'm impressed that you went through 2 red lights and saved my life at that point. So an appreciation of that. That's a number one attitude changer. Even if you're not totally sincere when you do say thank you, but I think you will find that it will change your attitude. You will start to appreciate small things and positive things that are happening in your life, which sometimes tend to get obscured by all the big stuff.
Doesn't that potentially make you more vulnerable then? Because if you start focusing on the things you do have, what if they're taken away? Then you're going to make yourself even more vulnerable to being unhappy.
Well, I don't think so, because if you were unhappy when you had these things, I don't think you're going to be... so now you're unhappy without them, so you never had that time that you were happy.
Right.
So here at least you have the time, A, that you were happy, and B, once you've trained yourself to appreciate things, then you'll find even when those things have been taken away that there could be other things that you will appreciate as well.
Right, so what was top tip number 2?
A change in attitude.
So what was top tip number 2?
Number 2 is acts of giving. Martin Seligman, used to experiment on himself with his positive psychology theories. So he went into a post office in Pennsylvania. I think the United States had just increased postage by 1 cent. It's extremely annoying. So now you had to, at that time, go out and buy a roll of 1 cent stamps. So he walks into the post office. He happens to be first in line, or second or third in line, and there's about 20 people behind him. And he realizes that almost certainly everyone in there is there to buy a roll of 100 1-cent stamps. So he looks around, he asks, who wants some stamps? Everyone puts their hands up. So he takes out $21 and he buys 21 rolls of 1-cent stamps, and he gets one for himself and he gives it out to everyone there. And these people just walk out overjoyed. They don't have to wait in line. Some guy just bought them a roll of stamps. He says he spent $21. He was happy for the rest of the day. Just doing an act of kindness has a tremendous impact on your own self-image, number one. It also helps you appreciate your own good fortune because you're able to share it with others. It can also alleviate the guilt at being around or in the presence of someone who is unfortunate, but now they are more fortunate because they've encountered you. So there are numerous ways in which this actually works.
It's funny how
you perceive other people more kindly when you give to them.
Yeah, it's funny how you can, you take someone who's unhappy with what he doesn't have and get him to give more to others rather than take more, and yet for some strange reason that helps to actually increase happiness. It's a remarkable thing.
It does, because I'll give you, I'll just summarize how Tal Ben Shachar does it. He says, A, because it lets you perceive others more kindly. So if you're surrounded by better people or people you feel better towards, you're going to be happier. 2, it heightens your awareness of community and interdependence, which is a good thing. It relieves your guilt and distress and discomfort with the other person's difficulty, which makes you feel happier. It encourages appreciation of your own good fortune. And it has a positive impact on your self-image. You say to yourself, I'm not such a bad guy, I just helped him, which is always a good thing. And finally, it can very often jumpstart a whole cascade of social consequences, which are positive. You volunteer for something, you give someone something, and you never know the chain of kindness that can precipitate and help you socially in many ways. So and kindness, by the way, does not mean that it's going to cost you anything. You can be kind without giving someone something tangible. You give someone a ride. You can open a door for someone. You can help someone with a package. You could even a smile at someone will help them.
Yeah. Look, I think often some people think these things are easier said than done, but actually, what you're offering are very small baby steps, whether it's expressing small amounts of gratitude or whether it's, doing a small act of kindness. These small things can all add up into helping shift someone's own internal mindset. Just finally, you're a rabbi, obviously. Where is the Jewish voice in all this? And also, is the God element? Do you believe as a rabbi that you need to have God involved in your life? You need to have a relationship with God in order to experience sort of a more wholesome happiness?
I would say that I certainly would agree with that, and that actually dovetails with the first question, which is, where is Judaism in all this? You might be aware that in Jewish tradition and Jewish law, actually, we say blessings on everything. Before we eat, before we drink, we say, you, God with whom I have a personal relationship, our God with whom we have a national relationship, King of the universe with whom we have a relationship just as a creature, everything was created. And you are the source from which everything comes, and everything, including this food, was created by your voice. And we actually specify different blessings for different foods, so that I'm appreciating not just, oh, good, I've got food. I'm saying, oh, I've got an apple. Wow, I have potato. I have this, I have that. In other words, that first of all is creating a relationship with God. It is having an identifier of whom I am.
Rabbi, I find it very hard to get excited about an apple. I don't know about you, but I mean, I still don't fully feel I can stand by this approach.
Well, that's fine, but I would suggest trying it. First of all, when you actually look at the food for a moment, and even forget saying a blessing, but just think about what took place to get that food to your plate. The person harvesting it somewhere else, the water that was required to get to that place, the irrigator, the transportation that was required to get that from you, from where it is to your supermarket, and then from the supermarket to your home, and then the manufacturer of the cars and the vehicles and all that. And now you've got this, and this apple, it smells good. It's in its own wonderful packaging called an apple skin. It's very attractive. It looks good. It has a tang. It has liquid. It's when you start to think about that, by the time you eat the apple, you'll be a lot happier as an eater when you eat that apple.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. When we say the blessing, that's part of what we're doing. And for example, and not taking things for granted. When we come out of I'm sorry for mentioning this, but when we come out of the bathroom, we say a blessing of appreciation to God that the plumbing is working okay. And you ask anyone who has experienced a situation when it was not working okay, the pain and the distress and the discomfort is terrible. So when it is working okay, most of the time, say a blessing. Thank you. Everything went well. Wow.
So just finally,
that's something to appreciate. That's something which will make you happier.
Sure. So just finally, just to clarify, can a person experience the same level of, in your view, can a person experience the same level of gratitude if they don't have the God element involved? If they're not trying to establish a connection, or if they don't believe in God?
I think that they can certainly have a feeling of appreciation, and the results in the positive psychology texts, when some of their experiments, they were not telling people to appreciate God, just a general statement of appreciation, and it was very effective even without God. What I think, though, is that bringing God into the picture will enhance it even more, because there, as Judaism maintains, God is also someone who loves us. And so knowing that there is someone who loves me, who is actually aware of me and it cares for me, that I think can enhance your appreciation and enhance your happiness. Not only that, but when you express appreciation, not just a random I appreciate this, but it's actually to someone, like a person, or to the Creator, to God, then I think it's also enhances a sense of appreciation. Is it impossible to appreciate without God? No, it's not impossible, but I do think that that having God in the picture certainly enhances that and adds another dimension which is not there when it's just an appreciation of something or not even someone, but just random chance and probability, etc.
Yeah.
Which is a little harder to feel a relationship with.
Yeah, sure. Well, Rabbi, thank you so much for joining us. I think you provided our viewers with some really interesting tips that can help improve and enhance their day-to-day lives. Thank you so much for being part of our very first international live interview on Jewish Wisdom at JTV, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon for another episode of Jewish Wisdom on JTV.